Yeah, and I got on the mic at Magfest when that before the bass hit. I was like, I made this bass drop in a retirement home, and the crowd was like,
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to a Candid Conversation with. My name is Breezeby, and today I am joined by someone who I think is another first for this channel. I don't know if I have gotten to interview someone from this particular genre of hobby career. So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Who are you, and what do you do?
Hey, Breezeby. My name is Theology. I make club-ready video game remixes, and I DJ at conventions across the country. And then I intersperse mental health content into it as well. And I make it all nerdy. So basically, I will take like a storyline or a character arc of a character in a video game, and I analyze it and I see how it relates to mental health. So yeah, that's what I do, and it's super fun.
Whoa. Okay. So I knew that you were really big on mental health and destigmatizing mental health
Yep. Yep.
care. Where did that come from? How does that your spiel, you wrapped it up. You were like, this is what I'm about and here I
Yeah.
am. So tell me a little bit about that part of it. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it. So I was at a crossroads a couple years ago being like, I really want to not do my normal job anymore. Right. And I sat down and I used to write resumes for executives. So I know a lot of weird things about business. So I sat down to write a business plan. Right. And one of the things that I've just always been passionate about is helping others and mental health. Right. And I feel like that is a area of just conversation that isn't talked about as much as it should be. It's definitely progressing. I've been
Oh
noticing
yeah.
a lot more people talking about it recently. But I was like, man, my music should have a cause, because I don't want it to just be about my ego. That's stupid. Considering that I make remixes, right? So I need something to attach to that. And yeah, I don't know, it just kind of came to me all in an evening, and I was like, yeah, let's focus on mental health. Let's donate to mental health charities. Let's open up the conversation about mental health within the gamer space specifically. I feel like that's really important as well, because it's another area where it's like a sub faction of oh, this really isn't talked about that much,
Oh
in the
yeah.
gamer sphere. And so, yeah, I don't know, it all came together that one evening when I was writing a business plan, but it evolved into sort of making a series on YouTube about video games and mental health, specifically about characters and storylines and such. I've always been doing a podcast with, I call him my spirit guide. His name is Nathan Ashby, or DJ Fat Rain as he was known. We did a
Yo.
music and mental health podcast together for a while. I met this guy on at a restaurant I worked at, actually. He was my chef, and I was
Yo.
more, yeah, no joke. I was his server, he was my chef. Cool dude. Love him
That's
so
so
much.
fun.
He's my literal brother. Oh my gosh. But yeah, he and I bonded over trance music, which is a subgenre of electronic music that's very ethereal, classical, yet still very energetic, bass heavy. Um, so yeah, I heard he had a British accent, and I was like,
I'm in.
yeah. I was like, I bet you don't even know who Above and Beyond are, because they're from England and they're my favorite trance artists. No, second favorite. Andrew Bayer's my favorite. He's from DC, but that's beside the point. They're up there, right? And he was like, well, actually, yeah, I do know them, and I love Gabriel and Dresden. He started naming all these artists that I know and love, and I was just like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's be friends. So we became friends. And then years later, he became my life coach. And I don't know, through our conversations, we bonded very deeply. We always knew we wanted to do some kind of venture together. And the Music and Mental Health podcast was that first thing. We have since rebranded it to The Quest Within,
Ooh.
because we feel like we can talk about a few more topics than just if it's music and mental health, right? So Yeah, our first episode comes out in February. I don't know when you're going to air this. I don't know what your content schedule is like,
I
but
don't either.
yeah.
It's a surprise.
Cool. That's amazing. Love that. Yeah, so in February, we're going to be doing our debut episode, which is about like resilience and pivotal life moments that changed you. But then the second episode, which we already recorded, is about food, right? So
Oh,
like, yeah,
fun.
and like we did relate it to mental health. Well, I mean, I mostly did, but I mean, I was like, we literally met over food in a way, right? Like he was my chef, I
Yeah.
was his server, so it seemed appropriate. But yeah, anyways, that's probably more than you wanted to know, but it's a
No.
candid conversation, right? So let's talk about it all.
No, I'm like already very intrigued because I came in here being like, all right, Theology like makes music, like good music. By the way, I was jamming to it the
Phew.
whole like time before getting on this call. I was like, man, this
That
slaps
makes me
so
so
hard.
happy. Oh
So
my
I was like
gosh.
planning on, I was like, oh, we can talk about music, like how we got into music. But now we've opened up a whole nother can of worms of
Yeah,
like
right.
side projects you're on. And like, I mean, not side projects for you. Like, this is a big deal for you.
Yeah. It's
Um,
huge. It is a center of what I do. Yeah.
that's
So,
incredible. So,
yeah.
okay, rewind a little bit.
Yep.
Your mental health, yes, we'll get back to that. How did you
hmm
get into music?
So, goodness. Where do I start? I come from a musical family. My dad showed me a drum beat one time when I was like 8, and he was like, "See if you can do it." And I practiced it for like 10 minutes, and then like I had it. Like I had it overnight. I he came home from work the next day, and I was like, "Dad, I can do it."
You're what
And it
you
was
have
just
one
a
of
simple
those
like,
brains. You're like, I
yeah,
just
it
can
was just
listen
a
to something. Yeah.
it was that easy beat. And I was like, "Dad, I've got it." So it went from doing that to learning piano. One of my biggest musical influences is this old fart named George Winston. He plays the most beautiful piano solos that I've ever heard in my life. I have several of his albums, and I learned piano by listening to him play on like a CD player, like across my living room, and I would listen to like 10 seconds, and then I would pause it, and then I would go to the piano and I would figure it out. Um, so that's how I got into music at the base level, right? And then so how did I get into EDM though? That's probably a more interesting thing to know.
Mm.
So one day, well, okay, keep in mind, I had been listening to like techno, as everybody called it, back in like the
Oh
early
yeah.
2000s when we didn't know what subgenres were.
Sure.
I was listening to techno for as long as I can remember, literally on like a Sony Walkman. Wow, on a tape. So cool.
Ooh,
Yeah, yeah.
ouch.
I'm only 32, but I got the gray hair, so yeah, the
You're
Walkman it
close
fits.
to me, and that's
Yeah.
too close for
Okay.
comfort to be mentioning a Sony Walkman.
Yeah.
Oi.
Deep cut. Yeah, so I had this tape that it was literally songs I had recorded from a burned CD of a bunch of Kazaa downloads or like LimeWire downloads that my friend Richard had given to our family. He would come over every Saturday night and sleep over, and we'd have a Smash Brothers Melee tournament. And we would often turn all the lights off in the basement and blast his techno CD
Yes.
and play Nerf gun wars in the basement. Yeah, it was super fun. And
That's amazing.
yeah, so on that CD was a bunch of video game remixes. I actually opened with one of them at my most recent set at 2DCon 2023. So last year, I can't believe that was last year already. Goodness. It's called Supersonic Dance Attack. You can tell it's super dated, and that it definitely came from like LimeWire, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, they're just nostalgic and great and good and yummy. Anyways, so I'd been listening to electronic music for years, and then one day I was 16. I was 16, no, 15, and my brother handed me this CD. It was called In Search of Sunrise 5 by Tiesto. Tiesto is somebody that everybody knows today because he pivoted his business model into making like more commercial EDM, which nothing wrong with that. His music slaps. But back in the day, he used to make trance music, which is that subgenre I mentioned earlier. That's very ethereal, very classical in nature. There's literally an Adagio for strings remix that he is very famous for. Yeah, it's really cool. So anyways, I'm listening to this CD and I'm like, wow, this is really gorgeous. Like, I've never heard music this beautiful in my life. Also, it just keeps going. Like, every track blends into the next one. What in the world is this? It was the first time I had ever heard a DJ mix, right? And I was captivated by it. So I decided I want to make this. So yeah, like half my life ago when I was 16, that CD kind of changed everything. And yeah, I've been DJing and producing ever since. With video game music, again, I had been listening, to those bootlegs for years on that CD that Richard had provided for our family. And gosh, let's see. I tried to climb the ladder in mainstream EDM for a while, a long time, in the trance scene specifically. I met a lot of my heroes. I met a lot of people who were rude to me, who stole money from me. Uh, yeah, so all of the above. It was all along the spectrum, and I'm grateful for everything that happened because it helped me learn, right?
Yeah.
But the coolest thing is that, I met my heroes along the way and they taught me production. People like Mayan from Mayan and Shane 54, people like Jason Ross, who is signed to Ophelia, which is Seven Lions label now, and he tours with him all over the place. Austin Mayer, Fatum, Daniel from Fatum is probably one of the most influential people that I've ever met insofar as learning production of electronic music. J-Tech was actually on that Tiesto album, and I met him years later. And yeah, crazy, right?
Would have blown my mind if I were you.
Yeah, my worlds are so small sometimes. Yeah. So, anyways, goodness. Okay. So yeah, tried to climb the ladder. I ended up getting a track played on Group Therapy by Above and Beyond, which is their podcast. I thought after that I'm going places, right? But nothing ever happened after that. It was a collab with my friend Brian, who goes by Prophetic. I found out about it at actually the Willis Tower, which is the Sears Tower in Chicago, right? He texted me and he was like, "Bro, our song got played." And I was like, "No way." And I checked Twitter and for sure it got played. I would say that it's one of the highest honors as a trance artist is to get played on Group Therapy. Either that or State of Trance, which is Armin van Buuren's radio show, which I feel like a lot more people probably have heard of Armin van Buuren. Anyways, so those are like the two highest honors. And I achieved one of them and I was so excited. Like, yes, I'm going places. Like, let's do this. And yeah, I didn't really get anywhere after that. I faced roadblock after roadblock after roadblock after, people, like I mentioned earlier, doing shady things. And I don't know, like there were points where I was like, man, I wish I kind of just stayed a fan of this music because it was a lot cooler back then, and like producing became a nightmare for me because I had to like fit into what the label wanted and like I couldn't be unique and an artist and like I was just like, I hate this, like why does capitalism have to ruin everything? Anyways,
no kidding.
So yeah, sorry, you can cut that out too.
No, that's so relatable.
Yeah. Anyways, so again, I had been making video game remixes for years and listening to them for years, right? And I made this album as sort of a like, you know what? I'm just going to make this. I'm going to self-release it. I don't care what happens. I called it Outsider EDM on my Facebook when I posted about it. The first like 4 tracks are pretty, standard, 128 beats per minute, trance, beautiful, gorgeous, whatever. There's a vocal track. But then the last section in the album, the last like 2/3 is this experimental genre that I'm trying to pioneer called future trance or down-tempo bass. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It's basically trance music in like a 90 to 100 beats per minute range. And I still make it very like growly, bass heavy because I love dubstep. And so like all that sound design like makes its way in, but I still make the tracks as pretty as I possibly can. Right. And I had, and I had 3 video game remixes on that album. One was a Mining Melancholy remix from Donkey Kong Country 2. Mm-hmm. One was a Secret of the Forest remix from Chrono Trigger, and one was a Sword Search remix from Link's Awakening, Zelda. I sent the album to my brother, and he was like, "This is crazy good, but your video game remixes are nuts. You should just focus on that." And I was like, okay. And then serendipitously, at the same time, I kid you not, I received a message from one of my restaurant regulars who I used to serve at Longfellow Grill, which is this restaurant in Minneapolis that I used to work at. I used to serve this guy, Thomas, and his boyfriend at the time over happy hour. That's the only time they would come in, and I would get them drunk on cider. It was a lot of fun. They were
Hell
great.
yeah.
Yeah, Thomas messages me out of the blue around this time when my brother is like, hey, you should just focus on VGM. And was like, hey, I'm doing this convention. You should apply for it. VGM Con. Thomas is on the board of VGM Con. Serendipitously hits me up at this time. And I'm like, what in the world? So yeah, I do my first convention set, but it was COVID, right? So like everything was online. And I didn't know how to even stream on Twitch then. I was such a boomer to it all. And I pre-recorded my set and sent it in. It was literally in my kitchen. You can see it on my YouTube channel right now. It was in my kitchen in Pennsylvania when I lived there at the time. And basically sent it in, and it debuted, a few months later in April. And I was like, oh my gosh, when I saw the response of the chat, I was like, wow, maybe I do have a future in this. Like, this is sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, ever since I saw the response in that chat, I was like, yep, this is what I'm doing now. And yeah, like, coupled with what I said before about how like I made a business plan and I was like, I just want to do music now. And, I feel like it's what I've always been called to do, but, roadblock after roadblock. Well, now, in this VGM mental health world I live in, I'm finally like in control of my entire, like, I guess, business, right? Like, I hate using terms like that because, again, when money gets too involved, it can corrupt art, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
But when I'm in control of everything, I have a say on what happens, and so I'm not going to let my art get corrupted, even if I start making money, which I finally am, which feels really nice.
Yeah.
Like I'm booked out until August of this year with
That's
gigs.
amazing.
It's stupid. Yeah, like I finally make money on streaming every month, which I never used to. I literally, when I was in mainstream EDM, used to be like, oh yeah, we don't make anything off of streams. We make money off of shows and off of merch, and that's it. And I barely sell any merch because whatever. And shows are far and few between because you got to please the gatekeepers and then like whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought my only way to get in was like getting signed to a label and then touring and then selling merch, and then I was good. But now that I've pivoted and sort of shifted everything in my life, yeah, it's like I'm finally starting to be successful at this, and it feels really good. And yeah, that's my musical journey in a nutshell.
That's amazing. That is like and congratulations now that you
Thank
can
you.
like
It
make
feels good.
money off of the thing that
Yeah.
you're passionate about, which is really
Right,
fucking
yeah.
hard to do in this life.
It's so hard, I know. And like I'm quasi full time, like I drive Lyft on the side, but I absolutely love it because I just
Yeah.
meet random strangers all day and we just talk, and it's really cool. So
Do you
yeah.
play your music in the car?
Totally. Yes.
Okay. I feel
Yes,
like
I
it's
do,
like
but only at times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't do it all the time.
Okay.
But people ask me all the time, oh, is this, do you drive Lyft full time? And I'm like, nah, I'm a DJ and a music producer. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And then we get talking, right? So
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of subs from driving people, and
So
definitely had them scan my
cool.
dot card. Yeah.
That's like
Anyways,
the perfect
so-
self-advertisement. So like when you
Yeah.
started doing these shows, you did your first one, you said you pre-recorded, did it during COVID, it was all virtual. When you started doing live shows, this must be like
Yeah.
fairly recent, within the last like what, 2 years that live shows have even come back and you've been able to like
Yeah.
do it in front of people. Like how has that been to see people actually
best.
live reacting to things?
Yeah, it's the best. There's no feeling like moving an entire room of people with your art. I can't describe the feeling. It's definitely a high that's better than anything you can think of. I played this con on New Year's Eve called a HagoCon, which I didn't know what that meant until I got there.
And then you got an abrupt education immediately.
Yeah. Well, like I knew it was like supposed to be like a sexy con, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that like it meant yeah. Anyways.
Literally. That was a good one.
Yeah, it's super funny. But that con ended up being incredible, and I DJ'd like I don't want to say I headlined because there wasn't a headliner, but like I had the 11 to 12 spot, so like right before the countdown happened, right?
Yeah.
And the entire room was just packed, and I played mostly my own music, and people were going absolutely nuts. And it just, I don't know, there's nothing like that feeling in the world, seeing a whole room just go nuts to what you made, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, and I live for it. Honestly, I live for it. Like anytime that I can get in front of a room of people and DJ, even if it's like 10 people, I don't care. Like
Yeah.
people are vibing to my art. Who cares how many people it is? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So yeah,
Absolutely. Do you have like
totally.
do you have a this is the venue I would want to play. If I could play anything anywhere, this is where I would want to go.
Yeah, right now it is main stage at Magfest.
Hell yeah.
You know what Magfest is, right? Okay, good.
Yeah.
You do. Cool. I was like, you know what GDQ is? You're a nerd. You should know what Magfest is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In fact, a lot
Yeah,
of people
actually,
from GDQ ended up going to MagFest like halfway through the week. Everyone was like, all right, peace out. I'm headed to MagFest. This has been real. So, yeah, we had a lot of that.
and like I understand. Like I've been to both, and like I don't know, Magfest feels like a utopia. It's like stupid how much fun it is.
Yeah.
Um, I played Post this year actually, which is the nightclub area, and the
Ooh,
club was packed all night long. Yeah, I played with Vector U, Player 2, Noteblock, and Siva Gunner. They were all in the lineup, which
so
is
cool.
just like what? Yeah. Siva Gunner was like I was slightly disappointed because they like played a pre-recorded set and put up a cardboard cutout of like the like Siva Gunner dude, you know?
Oh,
So I was a little disappointed that they didn't actually DJ, but I'm not like bashing it because
yeah,
their set
yeah.
was fire. And like at the end of the day, that was really funny. Like the
Yeah, of
cardboard cutout thing was
course.
hilarious. Yeah, but in the moment I was like, oh come on. Like I wanted to like see them DJ. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's fine. They crushed it. Uh but yeah, that's another thing too. Like, have you heard of like Vector U, Player 2, Noteblock, all these guys
I think
that I'm like
Player
super involved with?
2, I
Cool.
only know the name because of your music, because I'm pretty sure you two have like
Yeah.
done stuff together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've done things with all of them. Not everything is on Spotify because you can't license everything. So like
Mm.
the stuff I can't license, I just put on YouTube because like whatever, it's the Wild West. Who cares?
Sure is.
Um, yeah. But like getting it on Spotify, like it has to be like all legally done, and I will not mess with that because
Mm-mm.
Nintendo don't mess with Nintendo. So going back, with like my story from earlier, a big part of um why I am where I am today is because I made this remix of Stickerbush Symphony from Donkey Kong Country. It's a great song. And I messaged Vector U, who, good lord, like his Dark World remix has like 2 million views on YouTube. Like the dude is like, he's a big deal. He doesn't really realize it, but he's a big deal. And I messaged him and I was like, oh my gosh, I really hope he responds. Just DM'd him on Twitter back when you could do that before Elon Musk ruined everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, bro, like, I've been a fan of your stuff for years, and I recently made this, and I think you'll like it. But, like, also, I'm like showing you this to show you that, like, I kind of want to collab and, like, it might be really cool. And he was like, absolutely. And I was like, what? So then we ended up making our DuckTales Moon theme remix together
I
after that.
just listened to that one. It was so good.
Yes.
I was like, oh,
Yeah.
the moon theme is already fire, but we're remixing it? Like, this is so
Right.
good. Yes.
Yeah. And no, like he ended his set with that at Pose and I mixed into him. And it was super fun because like literally that bass line at the very end, that super hard bass line, I made that in a retirement home basically, like a 55 plus community in the like cafe. Yeah, and I got on the mic at Magfest when that before the bass hit, I was like, I made this bass drop in a retirement home, and the crowd was like
I need the
yeah.
background on that. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Okay, so I like to produce mobily, like on my laptop. I just put my headphones in and I like go to bars or I go like out in nature and
To
like try to
retirement
feed off the
homes.
energy of what's happening. Yeah. And so like I don't know, I was just in this retirement home as I was making these stems and yeah. Uh oh, cuz my wife is an equine veterinarian and
Wait.
I know, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right. I'll let you explain before I just like
Yeah.
ask a million more questions.
Yeah, you're good. I'll make this quick though. My wife is an equine veterinarian. So only horses. Not everybody knows what that means. And so I traveled the country with her for like 4 years for her job. And we were living in La Quinta, California, which is by Coachella and Palm Springs. And we were living in this 55 plus community because that's the housing that the company got for us. Yeah, it was like on a
Whoa.
golf course and stuff. Yeah, hilarious. So it wasn't like a nursing home. That would be funnier. But it was like people are going here to retire. Here we are. Yay. We're golfing every day. Woohoo. Anyways, yeah, so like we were living there and it was in the cafe and there were a bunch of old people around me and I just had my headphones at like max volume and they probably hated it, but whatever.
That like series of sentences was possibly one of the most interesting things anyone has ever said. Of like, my wife is an equine veterinarian. I made this in a retirement home that I was living in with my
Yeah,
traveling veterinarian wife who only works on horses.
nuts, right?
Amazing.
Beth from Rick and Morty minus the surgery.
Oh
More
my
sports
god,
med.
you're
Yeah.
right.
And
Holy
she's like a
shit.
blonde, like a really hot blonde too. So it's like, yeah, you're
Wow.
literally Beth. Anyways, so yeah.
Incredible. I don't even remember what specifically we were talking about, other than the fact that like you've made some really cool remixes with a lot of really cool people. We're talking about
Yes.
where you would want to play
Yes.
Magfest.
Yes.
That was it.
Yes. That was it. That was it. Yeah. And so like I did like fulfill the dream of playing at Pose. Because like I don't know, anyone has played in that room. Blind has played there, VGR played there, James Landino, like everybody, right? And so it's really cool to be like, yeah, I also did. um but yeah, I guess the point I was trying to make though earlier is that like I messaged Vector U, we made our Moon theme remix. He put it out on his channel. I got a bunch of like traction to my channel from that, and then like it just progressed from there. But one thing I want to say is that like Vector U is such a class act. Actually, everybody in the whole like VG, we call it VGDM instead of like so video game dance music.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a group of like 7 of us on Discord and we're always shooting the shit every day. It's the Icarus Kid, Cool Danch, Boshi, Player 2, Vector U, me, and did I miss anybody? And Noteblock. Yes. Can't forget Noteblock. Love that guy. Yeah, so anyways, like what a class act that he would respond to me. Like he had 20 times my following at that point, maybe 25. I don't know. I wasn't a big name at all. I'm still not a big name. I don't know why I'm talking like I am.
To me, you are. I don't know. I feel
Cool.
like
That's
if
great. I
if
love
I
that.
see your music playing at GDQ, like I don't think I mentioned this, but like your music was playing at GDQ this year, and we were
Mind
sitting
blowing.
in the stream room, right? And I see
Yeah.
your name come across the ticker, and I'm like,
Yeah.
we're all vibing to it, and I go, oh, that's Theology. I'm gonna interview him like in a couple of weeks, and one of the people in front of me whips around. I think it was like LM Motas or someone. One of the hosts was like,
Yeah.
that's really fucking cool, and I was like, I know it is. So like people were excited.
That's so dope. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Ah! That makes me even more excited for GDQ this year because like it's in Minnesota, right? So like I'm gonna
Yes.
go this year because I live here again.
I'll be
Yeah.
there. Let's meet up. It'll be so
Great.
fun.
Oh, I cannot wait. It's gonna be awesome.
Amazing.
Um yeah, thanks for telling me that. That's really encouraging. It's those little wins of like hearing stories like that that keep me going. So I appreciate it. Everyone in VGM is just a class act. Like I've had no problems with anybody. Like there's a few gatekeepers in VGDM, but they're not assholes at all. Like they're really
Yeah.
cool people. You know what I mean? Like Robo Rob, Ben Briggs, James Landino, VGR, like they're all cool people, right? And so like I don't know, man. Like I've had a lot of, I guess, success in approaching these people and being like, "Hey, let's make art." And they're like, "Yeah." But even like I'll even make art with people that have like 10 followers. I don't care. If you're talented, like let's make art. I don't care. I just want to make
Yeah.
fun music and vibe with my friends and that's like what's happening now.
On the topic, I want to go back a little bit to the mental health and kind of your music journey here
Yeah.
and how you had so many issues when you were just sticking with like trance music.
Yeah.
Did a lot of your I'm sure the want to be involved in like mental health destigmatization and all of that probably comes from other things, but like do you feel like your time in trance music and like I'm sure that was a really tumultuous time. Do you feel like
Mhm.
that's what led you to like really pivot with VGM and be like, I want this to have more of a purpose than like what I was doing before? Or do you feel like you
Yeah.
already had that going on?
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't. Well, okay, so let me take that back. I did have people tell me that they like didn't commit suicide because they're like my music inspired them. And like
Oh,
that's really cool because it was just like instrumental stuff, you know?
yeah.
But like back in the day, back in my trance music days, I literally would name most of my songs after people I liked.
Hmm.
Seriously, like I had a friend named Kavik Hannison, and like I made a song and I named it Cannison. And what would happen was I would think about these people, whether I was like drunk or like whatever, and I would weep because I would be like, they're such a great person and they're so kind and I love them. And then I
Oh,
would make a song and name it after them. Yeah. So I did that for a long time. There's
yeah.
several tracks I could point you to that have that nature. Um yeah, so anyways, like there wasn't like a this is my brand focus, right? But I definitely had that whole like I want to help people through art thing going on, but it
Hmm.
wasn't like I don't know, it was ambiguous, right? Because it wasn't like spoken about, like
Right.
I wasn't upfront about it. It's just like if it happens, it happens, and I was lucky to have people be like, yeah, like your art saved my life, and I'm like, that's cool. Wow, what a mantle to carry, right? But just amazing, and like I'm so grateful for that. It's so rewarding to hear those words, right? Like, oh my gosh. With what's cool though is that like with video game dance music, man, the sky is the limit, right? Like, okay, take an instrumental trance song, right? You listen to it and it's very introspective, right? Like, oh, this song makes me feel this way, and so therefore it means this to me, right? Or like,
Hmm.
the artist can say like, oh, I made this in this location, and like this song is about this, right? And they can be positive, uplifting things, of course, but say I make a gosh, what's a good example to use? Let's say I make a Prelude of Light remix from Ocarina of Time, which I just did with David Eric Ramos, a great ocarina player. Um, what I'll do is when I'm doing like a real show that's like, on a real stage, I'll have my computer over here doing music. I'll have my other computer over here that I'm recording visuals, or not recording visuals, I'm projecting visuals. But then what I do is I don't typically get on the mic and yell get your fucking hands up and shit. Like that's annoying. I did a lot at Magfest because I didn't have visual capability,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, I forgot how annoying I am on the mic. But whatever. usually, usually I'm typing messages to the crowd because it's a lot more intimate. It feels a lot
Oh,
more raw and real. And what I'll do is I'll take something from the video game remix and relate it to mental health live on stage, right? Okay, so like for instance, I'm releasing this Prelude of Light remix on my YouTube channel next month, and David and I had this idea to have him play wrong notes in the second breakdown, right? So it'll be like boop 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 boop, and then the noise will hit, right? Because you
yeah.
remember in Ocarina of Time when you
Yeah,
played a song
yeah.
wrong, it was like so that happens a few times, and then he plays it right, and then it goes into do 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 do, and then plays the theme, and then goes into a drop. So in my video, I have a little title that goes on that's like, I can't remember exactly what I said verbatim, but it was something like, sometimes in life you play a wrong note. Try again, you'll play it right the next time. And then boom, drop hits, right? So it's like constant messages like that.
So
And
cool.
it's so much more relatable because we played these games as kids. We know what they're about. And it's so much more just, I don't know, relatable. And the propensity to encourage people, I feel like, is so much greater because it's so nostalgic.
Yeah.
And so tapping into this is something that I don't know, like I sort of, I guess, stumbled upon if you think about it like that. But I mean, not really. I pivoted my business model, my art so many times in life.
Hmm.
And this is just the best one because I feel like it has the most potential to impact the most people,
Yeah.
considering the gamer space is also huge. So
It's
yeah.
huge. And like you
Hmm.
said before, also, I'm not going to say rife with mental health issues because we all have those, but like
We do.
very much maybe not talked about
Yeah.
in a way that is like productive. I
Slash
think
neglected, I might say.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people use gaming as a way to like get away from those problems rather than to address them. And to a point, I think that's like okay. But
Same.
like, yeah,
Yes.
I think it's a really
Yeah.
good venue to be able to like reach people like that. And that's awesome that you're
Hmm.
using both music, which, like you said, can tap into people's emotions, and also the nostalgia part of video games we played as a kid when we like have that sort of like, oh man, that was a really like special, innocent time in my life. Those two things together can make like a very powerful impact on people. So that's really
It's
cool.
magical. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super magical. Yeah, and so being here right now and having found this sweet spot in life, like I don't want to do anything else really. Like it's so much fun,
Yeah.
and I found that it's been very impactful. And what I'll do at conventions is I'll always submit a panel. You know, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'm rejected, sometimes it's accepted. I'll always submit a hey, let's talk about mental health panel, and I'll relate it to video games, right? And I remember I did one at 2DCon last year, and it was very impactful. I had a ton of people come up to me afterwards and be like, "Yeah, this needs to be talked about more. Like, thank you for doing what you're doing." Blah blah blah. Um, but yeah, I definitely want to bring up the neglected word again, right? In this whole thing, because in my first video, which sort of like sets the treatise for the rest of the videos to follow. It's basically arguing that video games are the best like intersection between beauty and art, storytelling, problem solving, and epic music. It's the only medium that has all four of those things, right? Like if you're watching a movie, it won't really have the problem solving aspect, right? Like you might be wondering like, "Oh, what are these characters doing?" But then it'll be like solved at the end by the movie. But like in a video game, you have to do the problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to use your brain, you have to think. And I don't know, like not every game has all of those elements, right? Like some just don't. What are some examples? I don't know, Call of Duty. I guess
Sure.
maybe the problem solving would be like hitting your target. I don't know, but like whatever. I never play games like that because it's just like redundant to me, killing and
Yeah, I'm the same
whatever.
way.
I mean, like I used to, they're fun, but I don't know. I need a story now. Like, so I
Mm-hmm.
play JRPGs. Like, they're my bread and butter.
Oh,
I'm literally
okay.
drinking out of a Persona 5 Joker cup right now. So
Oh
there you go.
shit.
Yeah, like that's how I roll. So, anyways, like, um, yeah, basically, I showed this video, right, claiming these 4 points, and yeah, like it was super impactful. And I just finished doing my like cut editing, right, getting out all the like and the um which
Yeah.
you know about because content.
Yeah.
uh I cut all those out today of a video that I'm doing about Groose from Skyward Sword, and his character transformation. Did you ever play Skyward Sword?
I didn't. Who is
Okay.
Groose?
So Groose is this sort of alpha male like douche in the beginning of the game that
Huh.
is a rival to Link, and clearly is smitten with Zelda, and is very jealous
Oh.
that Link doesn't put in as much work into his like studies or whatever, uh, and still gets the girl, so to speak, right? Like he's very jealous of their
Yes.
relationship, and he even so there's this like Loftwing ceremony, which are the giant birds in the game, and you have to like do this race as
Mm-hmm.
part of the first part of the game. You have to do this race, and like Groose like hides your Loftwing because he
What a
doesn't want
dick.
you to even compete. Yeah, he's a douche, right? And but what I say is that like because he's such a douche, the writers are brilliant because they make him transform into something completely different. And if we didn't hate him in the beginning, it wouldn't be as impactful when we see him change. So he basically eventually becomes a friend of Link, and I don't want to like do too many spoilers about like what the video is about, but
Yeah.
he basically, changes his whole medium. He comes to terms with who he is and that he's not the main hero of the game. And there's a point where he says, "Well, I'm useless," and then walks away, and we don't hear from him again until like halfway through the game. But he comes to terms with who he is, and he creates his own purpose, which is something that I preach a lot. Uh, Purpose is something that's very, we're depressed if we don't have one,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's very ambiguous as to what it is and like what is my purpose? Do I get it from the cosmos? Like, no, I argue that we create our own purpose. And I argue this very well through what Bruce does. He ends up inventing this thing to like defeat one of the, final bosses in the game. And he's like, I didn't know I had the talent within me to make something like this. And it's like, well, when you came to terms with who you were and you accepted it and you decided to create your own purpose, of course, the cool things that you had within you are going to come out, right? They're going to shine forth. And so, yeah, that's the kind of stuff I talk about in my YouTube videos. And it's really fun.
That's so fun. I can't wait to watch that then. Obviously, like
awesome.
when it comes out, hopefully this video will also coincide with that. I can put it down below, but like,
cool.
That's super fun. That sounds really interesting. That's the kind of stuff that I love watching because like, I don't know, I'll watch Let's Plays all day long, but like I would rather see someone deep dive into something like that and like, I don't know, show me something interesting and like something I wouldn't have thought about. That's really cool.
Yeah, totally. So I don't know. It's a lot of fun. Basically, so like, okay, my name is Theology because I have a master's in theology and I wrote a lot of papers in school. And so now I'm like, well, I'm basically just doing research papers about video games. It's a lot of fun.
It's way more
fun.
Because I
loved school.
Did you really?
I fucking loved school. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I loved writing papers. I loved academia. Like I went to school to be a professor. And then I realized, oh, America is dumb and people have to go into a lot of debt to be a student. I don't want to be part of a corrupt system. So I decided not to be. But yeah, like I loved writing papers in academia and I guess I'm sort of using my degree, as it were.
We all figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome. Man. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find you? Obviously, we've been talking about YouTube, but like, where else can people find you?
I'm on the Instagram as Theology Music. I am on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. Spotify. But you have to search Theology and then click artists. And I'm usually the first result. Like 99 times out of 100, I'm the first result. Otherwise, it just comes up with a bunch of, religious shit. I don't know. I focus mostly on my YouTube and my Spotify. So yeah, find me there. Find cool pictures or stuff about my dog on Instagram. And then if you want to know what I really think, go to my Twitter. That's what I tell people. Of course, I'm on SoundCloud and Apple Music and all that crap too. But yeah. YouTube and Spotify. Yep.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was super fun. You have so many good things to say, and I legit can't wait to watch your YouTube videos that are coming out. So
awesome. Yeah, I hope you like them and that it impacts you in some small way. So cool. Thanks for having me, Breezeby. I'm just really honored.
Yes, really I'm honored to have you. Yeah. And for everyone else, I will see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.